I'm gonna start with the most common complaint that I get from everyone is our knees. Knees. Now I've had surgery on one of my knees. I don't think I'll need surgery on the other one, but my knees don't affect me until I gain a significant amount of weight. Um, that's not to say, I mean, that's not everyone. There's some people that start to lose their cartilage in their knees, and so they may find that they might need knee replacements. That's kind of a whole to do. Um, but I say all that to say that knees are the most common complaint that most people worry about, or there's certain movements that they can't really do because of their knees. So until they have that corrected, I always tell people, and you might have already heard this, is that you should strengthen muscles around the knees so that your muscles can take the weight or take the brunt of the movement off of the knees. And so that's my most common recommendation, and that's going to include your quad muscles or any muscles basically above the knee are going to help with any sort of movements. A lot of people complain about squats, lunges. There's like a plethora of modifications that you can do for those movements. Specifically, I don't necessarily like to cut out those things, but I try to find a way to modify them so that my client is able to do them, to take the stress off the knees, because it's by avoiding that you become even stiffer and you're unable to do those movements if you don't try to at least mimic them in a way that it can serve you. The other delicate joint is our shoulders. A lot of times I have clients that injure their shoulders and they would either have to have, most of us try to stay away from surgery because it takes a long time to be able to recover from that. But if they have to go into surgery, of course, they'll go do the surgery and then they'll do the rehabilitative exercises that come with the recommendation of the doctor that has done the surgery. That's usually how it works for most of my clients. The shoulder is very important to strengthen. None of these are in any particular order. I'm surprised I skipped the hip. I probably should have gone to the hip, but this is social media, so I can go back and do that. But the shoulder is a delicate joint, and there are lots of muscles involved with the shoulder. And so that's one of those joints that you really want to be careful of. And flexibility really matters a lot in the shoulder joint, so you have to be really mindful of the movements that you make that involve the shoulder. If you already have shoulder issues, then again, I don't like to avoid the things that not make it hurt, but make whatever situation they're experiencing in their shoulder worse. But I try to strengthen the muscles that I can, that they can still use, because I think it's lack of use that actually makes their situation worse. So I always like to focus on what they can use to be able to strengthen the muscles that are involving the shoulders. So next up is the hips. Any sort of modifications and strengthening that you can do for the hips, because that's the number one joint where, and I've known people that have died from actually just falling, like they were a regular healthy person and they fell and they broke their hip and then they sort of died after that. So injuring the hip and strengthening the hip is a really big deal. So you always want to be careful of focusing on strengthening your hips, or any exercises that focus on strengthening the hips as you get older, because that's one of those things that affects your balance a lot. If your hips are weak or if you have problems with your hips, it's going to severely affect your balance. Some of the other modifications that you can make any aerobic activity a HIIT activity, because HIIT's a really big thing and a lot of people like to spend a lot of time with HIIT because of the fact that it helps reduce inflammation in your body. It's really big on that. And it also helps to strengthen your cardiovascular system, which is the main focus. It also helps reduce your body fat levels. So a lot of people will recommend HIIT, and so they're always looking for a way to do HIIT. The common mistake that I find people make is that they focus too much on making it really, really difficult. You can make any sort of cardiovascular activity. You can make walking a HIIT activity. You can make biking a HIIT activity. Anything that is still low impact, you can make into a HIIT activity, because all it is increasing the intensity for a specific amount of time, usually about 12 seconds. If you're going all out, if you're doing an all out sprint, it can only really last for most people about 12 seconds. So anytime anyone's trying to do a sprint for more than 30 seconds, it's almost an impossibility, because there's no way you can maintain an all-out sprint for that long. So it's usually about 12 seconds is the max that you can do an all-out anything. And even that you can do in walking or mimicking something that just increases your heart rate. And it sort of makes a way to bring it back down into homeostasis, because your body's always fighting to homeostasis, to bring yourself back down into homeostasis. So anytime that you are doing an activity, the harder your body has to work to bring it back into homeostasis, the more you'll benefit from it, and the more you're so remember that the harder your body has to work to bring it back into homeostasis, which is just an even keel, the bigger your benefits, the more that you're reducing the inflammation in your body. And that's like any inflammation, any built up inflammation, you're reducing your inflammation. Swimming or water aerobics or rowing machine or rowing, any of those activities can be made into a HIIT activity. So those are the kind of different modifications and adjustments I think you should be making for someone who's over 40 or someone who is in their menopausal years. Hey, Velma Gardens here, also known as the Velminator. So today I want to talk about the modifications that you should make as